After she saved his life, this billionaire will stop at nothing to find the mysterious single mom. The storm raged outside, but inside the hospital, an even bigger tempest brewed. Robert Hawthorne, the billionaire tycoon known for his ruthless business deals and glitzy lifestyle, lay on the operating table, teetering on the brink between life and death. Just hours before, he had been a man of power, but now he was just a heartbeat away from oblivion. What had happened? Freak accident, they said. A fall from his own penthouse balcony. But whispers in the hallways of the hospital hinted at something more sinister. Could it be sabotage? As doctors scrambled to save him, a mystery began to unfold. A single mom named Hannah had been the last person seen with him before he fell. She was a ghost, slipping through the cracks of society, leaving nothing but questions in her wake. Who was she? A saint in disguise? Or did she harbor dark secrets? The electricity in the air was palpable. Curiosity crackled like static. With every passing minute, Robert hovered between worlds. He felt the chill of shadows reaching out, pulling him away from the light. Just then, the nurse entered the room, her face pale as she noted the monitors flickering. "We need more time," she yelled, urgency spilling from her voice. But time was a privilege Robert had almost lost. Who was this average-looking woman who dared to cross paths with him? A man who brushed shoulders with CEOs and celebrities. The media soaked up this scandal faster than the blood staining the floor. Eyes were on him, eyes that wanted answers, and answers that needed to be unearthed. Before we continue, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Back in his hospital room, Robert stirred. He opened his eyes, and they met those of a pair of emerald orbs, the eyes of Hannah. But instead of relief, an explosion of confusion surged within him. "Why are you here?" he rasped, grasping the edge of his bed as if trying to anchor himself against a tide that threatened to pull him away. Her lips trembled as she leaned closer, as if the truth was a delicate bird ready to fly away. I was in the right place at the right time, but we can't talk here. They're watching." His heart raced. A chilling realization settled in the more he learned, the deeper the rabbit hole went. What was this single mom hiding? Who was really the monster in this tale? As if she sensed his thoughts, she bit her lip, the weight of secrets weighing heavily in the air. An unmistakable tension lingered between them, charged with unspoken fears and escalating suspense. Because saving him had only been the beginning. The real story was about to unfold, and it could shatter everything they thought they knew. Suddenly, the sound of a door swung open, breaking their connection. A stern-faced doctor bustled into the room, his presence casting a shadow that dimmed the flicker of understanding budding between Robert and Hannah. "Mr. Hawthorne, we need to run more tests," he declared, and the nurses immediately positioned themselves, ready to follow orders. Hannah's eyes widened in panic. "I have to go," she whispered, the urgency palpable in her voice. But before Robert could grasp her hand, she slipped away, disappearing behind the clinical chaos swarming the room. "Who was that?" the doctor demanded, eyes narrowing at the empty space Hannah had just occupied. "A friend," Robert replied too quickly, his heart racing. He wasn't ready to spill secrets or entertain interrogations. Whatever Hannah had revealed had set off an alarm in him, ratcheting up the tension in his veins. The doctor raised an eyebrow, unconvinced. Friends don't usually show up when someone's on the brink of death. If there's any foul play, there wasn't. Robert cut him off. A tiny crack in his voice betrayed the urgency of his thoughts. But his words hung in the air, too weak to convince even himself. Minutes later, still wrestling with the whirlwind of emotions, Robert had a technician set up the machines. The steady beeps provided a rhythmic backdrop to the turmoil swirling within him. What was Hannah hiding? And why did it feel like their fates were intertwined? As darkness fell outside, the storm mirrored his inner turmoil. Rain lashed the windows, echoing the thunderous question rolling through his mind. Was Hannah a savior or a part of the dark conspiracy lurking nearby? He could feel eyes on him heavy like a cloak. Investigators? Reporters? Competition? Out of nowhere, his phone buzzed on the table next to him, startling him. The suddenness felt ominous. He glanced down to see a text from an unknown number. "I know what you saw. Meet me." A chill crept down his spine. Who was this? Was Hannah involved? Or was someone else pulling the strings? The text ended with a cryptic signature. See. Nausea twisted his stomach. With each passing moment, it felt like shadows closed in further. He had danced on the edge of death and come back. But now he was being drawn into something darker, infested with lies and veiled threats. His instinct told him to be careful, but the stirrings within him, curiosity, desperation, pushed him toward the unknown, with the intention of finding Hannah buried deep in his thoughts. Robert's resolve hardened. He had to discover the truth, and quickly. Glancing around, he realized this was no longer just about saving his life. It was about solving a mystery that threatened his very existence. As he steadied his breath, preparing to escape the confines of this room, the door swung open once again. This time it was Hannah. She burst in, eyes wide with urgency, a shattering look that spoke volumes. "You have to listen to me, Robert. They're coming," she gasped, drawing closer. Fear twisted in his gut, the atmosphere in the room igniting with dread. "Who's coming?" But before she could answer, the lights flickered ominously. An alert blared through the hospital's calm, and panic erupted. "Code Blue!" echoed through the corridors, the sound slicing through the tension like a knife. That a new wave of anxiety crashed over him. His heart raced not only for himself but for Hannah. Whatever danger had been lurking beneath the surface was about to reveal itself in an explosive fashion. "Trust me," she said, gripping his arm. "We need to get out now." And just like that, Robert found himself standing at the edge of a precipice, trapped in a storm of intrigue and deception, with one burning question looming over him. Would he flee with Hannah, or would he dig deeper into the shadows waiting to swallow him whole? The climax of their fate was rapidly approaching, and somehow the truth felt tantalizingly close. But was it the truth he wanted to find? The urgency in Hannah's voice sparked something primal in Robert. He had to trust her after all. His life hung by a thread, twisted by entanglements he barely understood. Glancing around, he felt the full weight of the storm, both inside and outside the sterile walls of the hospital. "Where do we go?" he asked, almost breathless. The piercing alarm still echoed in his ears, but the fear in Hannah's gaze drew him in. "Follow me and keep quiet," she insisted, tugging him towards the door. The chaos in the corridors turned frantic, faces vaguely familiar darting past, each one more worried than the last. Whatever was happening felt like more than just a medical emergency. This was a breach of something bigger. They stepped into the electrifying air of uncertainty, rushing down the dim hallway. Shadows seemed to dart at the edges of their vision, flickering and fading as if trying to catch up to them. "What did you mean by their coming?" Robert managed to ask between hurried breaths. Hannah's grip tightened on his arm. "They've been watching. I can't explain it now, but that text, it wasn't just a warning. It's a part of something much bigger." He glanced back, heart pounding. The sterile fluorescent lights above buzzed ominously, and the feeling of being hunted wrapped around him like a cloak. "What do you mean? Who's watching?" Before she could answer, they reached an emergency exit. She paused just long enough to catch her breath. "The people involved in your accident. They're not just going to let you walk away," she whispered, eyes wide. "We have to leave. They know you're awake." The weight of her words settled like an anchor in Robert's gut. He wanted to protest, to lash out at the idea that anyone could conspire against him, but fear gnawed at his resolve. He couldn't let fear paralyze him now. There was too much at stake. With a burst of adrenaline, he pushed through the door. The chilly night air hit them like a slap. They stumbled onto a deserted side street, raindrops mixing with the adrenaline coursing through his veins. Hannah quickly scanned the road for any sign of danger. "We need a car," she urged, her voice barely above a whisper. "I have a guy not far from here who can help." "Help with what, exactly?" Robert threw back, struggling to keep pace as adrenaline surged. Curiosity clawed at him, but apprehension weighed him down. "What do you know?" "It's complicated," Hannah replied, glancing behind them. "Just trust me. You need to leave before anyone realizes you're gone." In that moment, the air was thick with possibilities, the tang of betrayal, secrets that could stem from a single truth. What was Hannah not telling him? Desperation clawed at Robert as he pressed for answers. You can't keep running in the dark. I can't be dragged into whatever you're tangled in without knowing the consequences. She turned to him, her eyes locking onto his. If you want to figure this out, we have to move. Right now. As they sprinted down the street, the sound of footsteps echoed behind them. A cold sweat broke out across his back. Were they being pursued? The streetlights flickered ominously, shadows weaving in and out of the darkness like lurking predators. A car skidded to a halt, engine revving. Get in! Hannah shouted, urgency etched into her features. The moment hung thick with dread and urgency. Would he trust her and jump in? Or would he risk staying to find the truths that lay behind the uncertainty and what that might mean for his life, or worse, his freedom? What if it's a trap? He yelled, fear wrestling with the instinct to protect himself. Hannah's eyes darted towards the approaching figures growing ever closer. You want to find out? Or do you want to stay alive? Before he could reply, the decision was made for him, and doubt, like a ghost, hovered over his shoulder as he lunged towards the car, heart pounding as the shadows chased them down the street. But the more pressing question loomed larger than before. Would they uncover the truth together, or would they both end up ensnared in the very deception they sought to escape? Hannah slammed the door shut behind them, her movements quick and decisive. The engine roared to life, drowning out the pulse of panic filling Robert's ears. He glanced back, but the figures in the darkness were already obscured, swallowed by the rain and shadows. Go. We can't waste any time, Hannah urged, her voice tight. The rearview mirror reflected her worried expression, and Robert was struck by the intensity of her gaze. They were in this together now, whether he liked it or not. With a jolt, the car lurched forward, tires screeching against the slick pavement. Robert pressed his forehead against the cool window, seeking clarity in the distorting rain. Who are they? He breathed, fear wrapping around him like vines. Each word threatened to strangle him. Hannah gripped the steering wheel like a lifeline. I told you, they're connected to your accident. They'll do anything to keep their secrets buried. His mind raced. Secrets. They were everywhere now, hidden behind the faces of nurses, doctors, and the people he once thought he could trust. Did this extend beyond just his accident? Was his entire life a facade? But why me? What did I ever do? Don't you see? You were a witness, one they didn't expect. And now that you're awake, you're a liability. She shot a glance in the rearview mirror, urgency flooding her voice again. Just keep your head down. If they find us, we won't stand a chance. A knot formed in Robert's stomach. Just an ordinary guy, he'd never imagined ending up in a chase like this. What do you know about me? About them? Hannah's grip tightened. Everything and nothing. They're a group, wealthy, powerful, and ruthless. They've got their hands in everything. I've seen what they'll do to silence someone. If you remember anything from before the accident, anything at all, it could put you in more danger. His heart pounded louder than the rain. He searched for a calm in the storm but found none. And what about you? Why are you helping me? She hesitated, fingers tapping on the steering wheel. Because I couldn't walk away. Not when I know the connections. His breath caught as he absorbed the weight of her words. What could she possibly have that was so dangerous? Hannah, you need to tell me the truth. I can't keep playing these guessing games. She glanced at him, her expression fraught with conflict. You have to trust me, Robert. I'm not the enemy here. I have a plan to get you out of this. Before he could reply, the car shook as a dark vehicle sped by them, its headlights shining briefly then disappeared. A chill ran down Robert's spine. Was that them? Stay low. She ducked her head, speed increasing as she maneuvered through the city streets. Robert followed her lead, heart racing, as the adrenaline pulsed through him. They were in the thick of it now. Minutes stretched like hours until she finally slowed down, turning into a dark alleyway. This will help us get off the grid for a little bit, she said, drawing a whiff of stagnant air. The shadows cloaked them, but dread still clung to the edges of his thoughts. Robert looked at her, desperate. What's the next step? She smiled curtly, determination flickering in her eyes. We regroup. I have to contact some allies. But understand, once we're in deep, there's no turning back. Fear gnawed at him, perspiration beading at his brow. What had he just stepped into? What would he be giving up to uncover the truth? And if we fail? The tension hung heavy between them, a moment suspended in uncertainty. Then we'll face whatever comes together, she said fiercely. But first we must breathe and prepare. There's power in knowledge, and we're about to get a lot more of it. Just then, a sliver of doubt flickered in Robert's chest. What were they really up against? Would he even survive whatever hidden truths awaited him? As they huddled in the car's dim light, the faintest sound of footsteps echoed outside, like distant thunder approaching. The storm was far from over. Robert, she said suddenly, her voice dropping to a whisper, you need to listen to me very carefully. There's something you don't know about your accident. Something you need to remember. At that moment, darkness surrounded them both, and he realized their fight had only just begun. What truth could shake the very foundation of their fight for survival? The footsteps outside grew closer. Robert's heart raced as he searched the shadows, feeling like prey in a game he didn't know he was playing. He shifted in his seat, straining to listen, every nerve jangling, urging him to act. Hannah, are you sure we're safe here? His voice barely broke above a whisper. Hannah didn't answer immediately. She was busy peering through the windshield, scanning for shadows lurking beyond the dim glow of the alley. We need to keep quiet, she murmured, her eyes narrowing, trying to pierce through the veil of darkness. Robert gulped, every instinct urging him to run. But from what? He was too disoriented to think straight. Who were these people? Why were they after him? He racked his brain, desperately grasping for any pieces of his fragmented memory that could help make sense of the chaos. Suddenly, a loud thud against the side of the car sent his pulse racing. Robert jumped, squeezed his eyes shut for a fleeting moment. They're looking for us, he managed to say, terror threading through his words. Stay down, Hannah hissed, her voice fierce yet tinged with fear as she turned to him, fear flickering in her dark eyes. Whatever happens, don't make a sound. The air crackled with tension. Robert's throat tightened. He wasn't ready to confront whatever was outside. Each thud resonated like the beat of a drum, demanding his attention, forcing him to confront the anonymous threat drawing closer. Then, he heard it, a voice, gravelly and cold, calling out from the shadows. You can't hide forever. It was laced with a sense of authority that sent chills cascading down his spine. We know you're in there. Come out and we can make this easy. Hannah's breath quickened beside him, and for a moment a flicker of something panic crossed her face. She reached into her bag, pulled out a small device and pressed a button, scrambling the car's GPS. We need to buy some time, she whispered. If they track our location, we're finished. Time felt like a cruel joke. Minutes stretched into hours, and in that fleeting moment of calm before the storm, Robert locked eyes with her. What if I can't remember? His voice shook, laden with the weight of the unknown. You have to. It's the only way, she insisted. Whatever you remember, every little detail, it could save us. Just then the noise erupted outside. They were pounding on the car now, desperate yet controlled, trying to panic them into revealing themselves. The sound of metal on metal made Robert wince. They were here. They had found them. Hannah, the words barely escaped his lips before he felt a sharp stab of pain ignite in his chest. Aisha, she interrupted. They can hear you. Just focus. Breathe. He closed his eyes, trying to gather his thoughts amidst the chaos. Memories flickered, faces he didn't recognize, places shrouded in fog, whispers that felt familiar yet distant. The sensation of recognition hovered just beyond his reach, tantalizingly close and maddeningly far. Robert. Hannah's voice sliced through his concentration. Think. Dig deeper. What do you remember about the accident? Anything could help. With that, something stirred within him, a long-buried fragment clawing its way to the surface. Images flashed like lightning, a car skidding, a voice yelling, a flash of headlights before the world went dark. There was someone in the car with me, he exclaimed, grasping at the thread of memory. Before he could elaborate, glass shattered, and a cold wind swept inside the car as a hand reached in, its fingers clawing for Robert. He gasped, heart racing, fighting against the encroaching dark. Run! Hannah yelled, her voice a magnet pulling him back towards the present. And in that moment Robert realized. The hidden truths of his past were the key to their survival. But would they uncover it in time? Or was it too late? With a jolt, the car doors swung open, and the confrontation he dreaded was finally unfolding. Would the memories be enough to save him this time? As a figure stepped into the haunting glow of the alleyway light, a shiver raced down his spine. Let us find out, Robert thought, facing his fears head-on. But what awaited them? Was it merely the beginning, or the end of their struggle for survival? The figure stood silhouetted against the alley's flickering light, a man, tall with an imposing presence. As he stepped closer, Robert's pulse thundered in his ears. This was no random threat. This was someone who had been hunting him. Panic surged within him, an instinct to flee clawing at his insides. But the car felt like a cage, its metal walls closing in. "Are you Robert Mason?" the man asked, his voice smooth but edged with menace. There was a cruel satisfaction dancing in his eyes, like he knew secrets Robert could only barely grasp. "I am not who you think I am," Robert stammered, every word tasting like desperation. "See that's where you're wrong," the man retorted, a smirk curving his lips. "You're exactly who I think you are. And you're going to come with me one way or another." Hannah gripped Robert's arm, her fingers digging into his skin as she whispered fiercely, "We can't let him get you. You have to remember more." "Enough," the man barked, and he slammed his fist against the roof of the car, the noise echoing like a crack of thunder. "We don't have time for games." Robert wanted to scream, to lurch forward and throttle the man for the threat he posed, but terror rooted him in place. Memories teased him, swirling like leaves in a gusty wind. I don't know," he shouted, frustration spilling over. More pounding came at the windows, and figures clustered outside, shadows that threatened to close in. "Don't listen to him, Robert," Hannah urged, pulling him closer to her, their breaths mingling. "Just focus. Think about the car. Think about the accident." Without warning, the man yanked the car door open. The force sent Robert stumbling into uncertainty, but Hannah quickly pushed him behind her. "Leave him alone," she shouted, her defiance sparking a flicker of strength in Robert. "Your loyalty will be your downfall, sweetheart," the man hissed, ignoring her and fixing his gaze on Robert. "You owe it to yourself to remember what happened that night. The answers are buried in your mind, find them." The chaos swelled around them, and it began to feel surreal, like living in a nightmare where reality bent and shifted. Robert's mind raced with fragmented reflections of the accident. A flash of light, the screeching brakes, the smell of smoke, someone screaming. Who was it? He whispered, his throat dry. "Who was in the car with me?" "Your past is catching up, Robert, and you will face it," the man said, taking a menacing step forward. "You can't hide forever. Just like your little friend here can't protect you." "It wasn't just me," Robert said, and with those trembling words, something clicked in his mind, shadows of another presence. A woman with striking eyes, a soft voice calling his name. Someone was with me, but who? Before he could piece it together, the man lunged, but Hannah shoved Robert back toward the passenger seat. "Get in. We need to move." The breathless command shot through Robert's brain like a lifeline. He scrambled for the door just as shadows flooded into the car, hands grabbing for him, and the world stretched around him, filled with panic and urgency. "Hannah, drive!" he screamed, urgency shoving aside his fear. But the chaotic noise outside grew louder. Voices shouting, chaos erupting, and suddenly the alley was no longer just an escape route, it became a trap. "Hurry!" Hannah yelled, flinging herself into the driver's seat. As the engine roared to life, Robert's thoughts whirled. He had to remember. As they raced down the alley, Robert's heart sank, knowing someone was close behind, someone determined to unravel the tangled threads of his past. He felt the weight of those missing memories pressing on his chest, each unanswered question a ticking bomb counting down to disaster. "Who was in the car with me that night?" he gasped. "We need to get away from them. I have to find out what I've lost." But as the headlights cut through the darkness ahead, one thing became clear: they weren't out of danger yet. And whatever lay in wait was more terrifying than he could imagine. What secrets would the road alone uncover? The engine roared, a hellish growl cutting through the dark, and Hannah slammed the accelerator. The car jolted forward, tires screeching as they tore away from the alley's shadowy depths. Robert clutched the seat, heart racing, adrenaline pumping like a river through his veins. He could still feel the presence of the man, the threat clawing at them, lingering like a bad dream. The streets blurred past, bright city lights flickering in frantic flashes, but the terror closing in on him wouldn't fade. Robert turned back, trying to glimpse their pursuer. But nothing was there yet, just darkened storefronts and scattered trash bins of the alley. "Hannah, did you see that guy?" he said, voice tight with urgency. "He knows things about me." "I saw him," she replied, eyes fixed on the road ahead. "But we need to focus on getting away first. You can't let yourself get caught up in the past right now." The twist of her words struck him. What did she know that he didn't? He shook his head, battling the conflicting thoughts that swirled like storm clouds. "But I have to know. What happened that night? There's something important." "You'll remember when it's safe, Robert." Hannah shot back, her tone a mix of frustration and fear. "Right now we just need to survive." With a sudden burst of determination, Robert grasped the glove compartment, ripping it open. The contents tumbled out: a stray napkin, an old receipt, a half-empty bottle of water. But then something caught his eye. A small crumpled piece of paper. He unfolded it with trembling hands. It read Carter's Cafe along with the date and time. "It's got to mean something," he murmured, heart pounding with revelation. "I've been there." "What? Where?" Hannah glanced over for a split second, concern etching her features. "I don't know," he spat, tossing the note back into the compartment. "But it could lead us to figuring out who was with me that night." "Robert, focus." The urgency in her voice snapped him back. Just then the headlights in the rearview mirror split through the darkness like a predator's gaze, growing closer. "They're catching up," she screamed, veering sharply onto a side street. The tires squealed in protest, but Hannah held her grip steady. "Don't look back, just keep driving," Robert urged, his heart clenching. "We'll find a place to hide." Hannah pressed harder on the gas, each turn tightening the knot of fear in Robert's chest. They wound through the streets, but the relentless headlights followed like a nightmare, too frenzied to escape. The city around them started to morph into a blur of light and sound, but the shadow behind them refused to fade. "Where do we go?" Hannah shouted, panic threading through her voice. "Anywhere but here." Robert shot back, and suddenly it struck him the memories flickered like a dying bulb. "I need to think. Now isn't the time for thinking, Robert," she cried, but just as he was about to speak, a memory struck him like a lightning bolt. A soft laugh, a reassuring hand on his shoulder, the warmth of someone that felt both familiar and distant. "Wait," he wheezed, conflicting emotions rising to the surface. "I want to remember. It was her. The person in the car." Hannah's breath caught as she glanced at him, recognizing the urgency in his eyes. "What do you mean?" "I don't know, but I think I can remember her name." He strained against the flood of thoughts rushing in, trying to capture the fleeting moment like smoke slipping through his fingers. But before he could voice it, the world exploded around them. A blinding light engulfed them from behind, a shattering sound echoed, and they were suddenly lifted by an invisible force. The car spun, metal screaming against metal, and Robert felt everything go dark. What awaited him on the other side of this darkness? Would he face the truth of his past or be swallowed by it completely? Darkness enveloped Robert as the world faded into nothingness. He felt weightless, suspended between reality and a dream with fragmented memories swirling around him. But somewhere in that endless black, a piercing light began to emerge. It flickered at first, then grew brighter, blinding him momentarily. When he regained awareness, he found himself lying on a cold metallic surface. The acrid smell of burning rubber and gasoline stung his nostrils. The chaos of the crash washed over him like a tidal wave, thrusting panic into his chest. He sat up abruptly and scanned his new surroundings. The car, or what remained of it, lay crumpled like a soda can nearby. "Hannah!" he called out, his voice hoarse and edged with desperation. He forced himself to rise, legs wobbling beneath him. Each step sent sharp reminders of the crash rattling through his body, but a greater fear drove him forward. "Hannah!" He stumbled through the wreckage, calling her name again. What if she was trapped? "You're okay, Robert." A familiar voice rang out. Relief flooded through him as he spotted her, crouched behind a concrete barrier, shaking but unharmed. Thank God. Before he could reach her, a heavy thud echoed from behind, causing him to whirl around. Out of the shadows, a figure emerged, a silhouette he recognized from his nightmares. The man cloaked in darkness stood tall against the dim light, eyes glinting like sharpened knives. You just can't let this go, can you? The voice was low, tainted with a mocking tone that sent cold shivers along Robert's spine. Robert's heart raced again, memory flooding back in spades. What do you want? He shouted, trying to mask the fear tightening his stomach. The man stepped closer, eyes locking on Robert's with a predator's hunger. You're not ready for the truth, but you will be. You just need to follow the clues, the breadcrumbs. He threw a crumpled piece of paper onto the ground at Robert's feet, the same note he had found in the glove compartment. You think you're clever, don't you? The man's voice dripped with disdain. Running away won't save you. It only makes the game more interesting. Without waiting for a response, the figure melted back into the shadows, disappearing as swiftly as he had come. Robert could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him, confusion and anger boiling beneath the surface. The crash might have saved them temporarily, but what kind of game was the man playing? Hannah's voice broke through his thoughts. Did you see him? She asked, eyes wide with fear. Who even was that? I don't know, he said, trying to catch his breath. But I think he knows more. We have to figure this out or he'll come after us again. Carter's cafe, she murmured, eyes darting away, recapturing Robert's attention. What? His heart raced. Did you say something? That's where we need to go. It might lead to answers about that night. Her voice was suddenly filled with a glimmer of hope, and yet uncertainty lingered in her eyes. We have to leave. Now, he urged, glancing nervously around. The danger didn't just fade with the shadows. It was still out there, lurking and waiting for them to make their next move. They began to run, each step echoing the urgency of their hearts. Robert felt the weight of the man's words hanging in the air, promising a reckoning. What crumbs would lead them to the truth? As they darted down the alley, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The chase was far from over, and every ounce of dread in him warned that the worst was yet to come. Was Carter's cafe a sanctuary or a trap? The question haunted him like the shadows speedily falling behind them. The streets were alive with a cacophony of distant sirens and muffled voices, an unsettling reminder that chaos had emerged from their accident. As they rounded a corner, Robert could barely breathe, the sheer weight of terror settling in his chest. Each heartbeat thrummed painfully in his ears while he and Hannah pressed on, adrenaline propelling them forward. Are you sure you remember where Carter's is? Robert asked, trying to mask the doubt creeping in. The thought of being led into a trap gnawed at him. Yes. It's just a few blocks away, Hannah replied, her voice trembling but resolute. They glimpsed the flickering neon sign of a diner in the distance, its glow both inviting and unnerving in the darkened world surrounding them. They dashed across the road, their feet slapping against the concrete. Every shadow seemed alive, every rustle in the night made his skin crawl. Keep your head down, he warned, glancing behind them as if expecting the shadowed figure to leap from the darkness. But they were painfully alone, the quiet mocking their worry. The cafe appeared closer now, and a voice broke through his haze of anxiety. Do you think he followed us? Hannah's breath came in gasps, her fear palpable as they reached the entrance. I don't know, he muttered, pushing through the door. The bell chimed above them, a false herald of safety. Inside, the cafe felt almost surreal, with flickering fluorescent lights casting a sterile glow over the cracked vinyl booths. The waitress serving coffee at the counter shot them a curious glance before returning her attention to the regulars seated nearby. Let us just sit, Robert suggested, nerves taking over. They slid into a booth in the corner, allowing the shadows to envelop them, hiding from the world outside. We need to talk about what just happened, Hannah whispered, her eyes darting nervously around the diner. Before he could answer, the door swung open. Robert's heart skipped a beat. A figure entered, silhouetted against the dim light. It wasn't he, the man from the shadows, but a police officer scanning the room. Shit, Robert hissed under his breath. The officer's gaze swept over them, and Robert instinctively leaned back, slipping down in his seat. What are we going to do? Hannah's voice was barely above a whisper, filled with fear. We have to get answers, Hannah. If that man was right and there are clues, we can't run away. We need to face this. His mind raced, every intertwining thought pressing upon him like a weight that threatened to crush him. Hannah turned her focus to a newspaper laying crumpled on the table beside them. "Look," she said, pointing. The headline screamed at them. "Mysterious accident claims victims. What are the police hiding?" Photos of the crash site. And a list of missing people whose names made Robert's stomach turn with dread. As his eyes scanned the article, a chill shot through him. Not only did he recognize the impact of the crash, but there it was, the mention of missing persons throughout the area. Faces he recognized from his nightmares. "Robert." Hannah's voice trembled. What if those people were part of whatever happened that night? He swallowed against the lump in his throat. "We need to find out why," he said, voice steady with determination. The truth was lurking just beneath the surface, and it was up to them to dig it out. The police officer began walking toward them, his expression unreadable. Robert felt the walls of the booth closing in, anxiety surging like a tidal wave. "Go," he whispered to Hannah, grasping her hand tightly. "If he starts asking questions, we'll be trapped. We need to see where that leads." With a nod, they slid out of the booth and rushed toward the back exit, desperation steering them as the officer's voice faded behind them. Just as they reached the door, Robert felt the weight of a cold man's laughter echo in his mind. "Follow the breadcrumbs, Robert." They burst onto the alleyway, the shadows of nearby buildings wrapping around them like tangled vines. But what would they find next? Would it lead to salvation or the exact opposite? As the door swung shut behind them, uncertainty loomed like a dark cloud overhead, the question palpable in the night air. Were they too late? The rain had finally stopped, but the remnants of the storm clung to the air like a thick, heavy fog as Robert and Hannah stood beneath the flickering streetlights. The city felt strangely alive, humming with a restless energy that matched the turmoil inside them. They had to keep moving. There was no time for reflection, no room for doubt. "Carter's Cafe is just ahead," Hannah said, urgency slicing through her voice. Robert nodded, his heart pounding in his ears as they walked briskly down the slick sidewalk, the world around them barely registering. All he could think about was what lay ahead, the potential truth buried in the past. They arrived at the cafe, a small, nondescript place that felt both welcoming and ominous. As they pushed through the door, the bell chimed softly above them, and the warm air wrapped around them like a soothing balm. But even in this sanctuary, unease prickled at the edges of their minds. "Keep it low," Robert whispered, scanning the interior. Patrons were scattered across the booth, some huddled over pancakes, others sipping coffee alone, but each face stirred a primal sense of caution in him. "Let us sit in the back," Hannah suggested, her face taut with worry. As they slid into a secluded booth, Robert pulled out the crumpled note he had recovered earlier, staring at it as if it held the answers to all their questions. "This is where it all ties back. This is where we find out who was with me that night," he stated, determination coloring his words. Hannah leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "I think we need to talk to someone here. If these people are connected to your accident, maybe they'll know what really happened. Maybe, or it could lead us right into a trap," Robert muttered, the tension tightening his chest. The shadows danced along the walls, each flickering light a reminder of the darkness looming outside. Suddenly, a waitress approached their table, her eyes darting between them. "Can I get you two anything?" "Just coffee, please," Robert said, his voice steady despite the anxiety thrumming beneath his skin. She nodded and walked away, but Robert couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. "Hannah, if we're going to do this, we need a plan," he said, glancing toward the entrance again. "We don't even know how deep this goes. It's more than just the accident. It's about everything that led up to it." Hannah's fingers nervously traced the rim of her coffee cup. "You're right. This isn't just about what happened to you. It's about those missing people from the article, and they might be tied to that man who attacked us." "Exactly," Robert said, his uncertainty beginning to shift into resolve. "We need to figure out why all of this connects to me, and to those people." Just then the door creaked open, and Robert felt his heart lurch. The figure stepping inside was tall, wearing a dark coat that seemed to absorb the dim light. A sense of déjà vu washed over him, and he instinctively tensed, recognition mingling with dread. "Hannah, get ready to move," he whispered, signaling her to stay alert. The man scanned the cafe before walking straight towards them. His expression, smug yet menacing, twisted into a smirk as he reached their booth. Well, if it isn't the lost little lambs." "Who are you?" Robert demanded, anger clenching in his gut. "I'm your guide in this little adventure. You've always been so curious about the truth, Robert," he said, his voice smooth like silk. "But what if the truth isn't concrete? What if it's just a web of lies spun by someone close to you?" Hannah's grip on Robert's arm tightened. "What do you want?" "Only to ensure that he remembers and that you don't get in the way when he does." The man leaned closer, eyes glittering in the low light, almost reveling in their fear. Robert felt a rush of anger surge through him. "You're not making any sense. What do you know about that night?" A cruel laugh escaped the man's lips. "Oh, I know plenty. You think you're the only one with ghosts? The truth you seek is buried under layers of protection both for you and for those who want it to stay hidden." The tension climbed higher, the stakes growing sharper. Robert glanced at Hannah, urgency flashing in their exchanged look. They couldn't let this man manipulate them. "Enough games," Robert said, forcing his voice to remain level. "You're going to tell me everything. If we're going to get to the bottom of this, I won't stop until I know the truth." "You won't have a choice in the matter," the man replied smoothly, backing away with a knowing smile. "But remember, the truth often comes at a price." With a swift motion, the man turned and walked away, disappearing into the cafe's crowded interior. A sense of foreboding settled deep within Robert's bones. "We need to go now," he urged, abruptly standing. "But what about their tea time?" he interrupted, leading her towards the door. "If he's right, we're running out of time to connect the dots. I can't let him scare us into submission." They burst back into the night air, adrenaline propelling them forward. "Where to now?" Hannah panted as they stepped away from the cafe's entrance, shadows lurking ominously around them. "Back to where it all began," Robert replied, the name of the cafe still fresh on his mind. "If that note is right, then we'll find answers where we least expect them." As they made their way through the rain-slicked streets, the gravity of their situation hit him hard. They were now not just searching for answers. They were hunting down a truth that could destroy everything they knew. But the determination radiating from Hannah's presence gave him a flicker of hope. They would uncover the lies, confront their fears, and maybe, just maybe, they'd find a way to escape the shadows that threatened to consume them both. "Hold on tight. We're about to dive deeper than we ever thought possible," Robert whispered, each word echoing the serious weight of their journey ahead. With hearts racing and uncertainty hanging like storm clouds, they stepped into the night, ready to pursue the trail of breadcrumbs that could lead to the truth or to their ultimate demise. Now more than ever, they would need each other to survive whatever lay ahead. This is where it all comes together. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss any more twists in this wild ride. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support for the story. Even if it feels like time is running out, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this thrilling conclusion. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what happens next. Let's keep this conversation going. Your engagement makes all the difference in keeping this community alive.